All right, we are here with the Locked On Gophers postcast. Myself, Kane Robb, host of Locked On Golden Gophers, and Gophers legend Ron Johnson. We're here to talk about what just happened with the Minnesota and Michigan matchup. The Gophers dropped the game 52-10, and it was a tough one. I feel like there's not a ton of positives to talk about, unfortunately. But what did you learn in this game about this Gophers team, Ron? What are you thinking right off the bat?
I'm not gonna lie, man. Like I'm hurting right now. I'm struggling, to be honest. Like 100%, I'm struggling to find positives. Like I really can't. Michigan showed that they were bigger, stronger. Here's where I go with this. This is what I learned about this team. I don't know what Coach Harbaugh has to do or Harbaugh has to do with his offense, but he's got to help Ethan Kaliakmanis understand coverages. So that first interception to start the game was clearly some type of zone robber type of defense. My cousin, number 7, Makari Page, I was watching that play specifically because he was on the inside of the receiver. I think Ethan figured, okay, if that's the inside guy, I got the out route. He didn't have the out route because Will Johnson, another guy I know because his dad played at my high school in Detroit, Michigan. So this was like a family affair type of game for me. And he threw the pick 6 to him. And so what did I see? Well, you have to understand the coverage. Where are the safeties at? And so if they don't fully trust Ethan in some of the coverages and they're not going to take the leash off, I guess you want to call it, they have to be able to give him some motions and some shifts to help him see this man's versus zone. Because you can't just come to the line of scrimmage, do a check with me, and then think you're going to run a play and it's going to work. They got to figure out a way to get some more production out of him.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100% on that front. And I almost forgot, we got to pay the bills here at Locked On Gophers and Locked On Network. So today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself and purchase a Jace case, providing you personal supply of 5 antibiotics with 50 plus infections to treat. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. But back to the Gophers and Michigan game. Now, look, heading into this game, Minnesota was seen as a major underdog. They were seen as no chance, blowout. All these things were being said about the game, and it ended up in that fashion. But Minnesota goes on to put up the most points on this Michigan defense, on the starters, with 10 points in the first half. And even thinking about that as a positive kind of feels gross a little bit. But I will ask you this. Does it feel like the Gophers have been waving a white flag in the passing game? I mean, you gave up 2 pick sixes. Yes, that was really hard. And like you were just saying, they got to work with him on reading the coverages. But seeing 16 passing attempts or under 20 passing attempts in a game that you were down by multiple scores throughout the entire game, does it feel off to not see them trying to pass, maybe even against the twos? Or what are you thinking when it comes to the passing game moving forward?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, like with the twos defense coming in, like I assume, they would try to go after him a little bit. Again, I go back to like, how can you find ways to get the ball out? Well, quick routes. You can run 3-step drops. You can run hitches and slants. You can run some quick stuff. Now, again, the quick out, though, he threw the pick 6. How do you help him with that? Well, if you have – and I haven't watched the All-22 on that play because I didn't really get to see a chance to see I was there. I'm at the stadium. So – and I'm just leaving. So when you look at – and you were there. So when you think about that play, you can't see what the other routes are besides that pick 6. So when you see that, you have to understand, like, what is the progression? Is there a go route to maybe force that cornerback not to be able to cheat? Is there maybe a post corner or corner route behind that out route to if the safety cheats or doesn't get off the hash, you have the corner route? I don't know. Like, we're going to have to go back and watch some of that and see what the play was called. But I do feel like there was a little bit of a waving of a white flag. I will say this, and you know this. They got booed at the end of the first half when everybody thought they were trying to run the clock out. Well, what they were trying to do was not give them a second chance at the play. And so they were trying to run the clock out. And then you fast forward, they throw the deep ball to Daniel Jackson, and everybody erupts. Crowd's excited. That's the momentum I felt like they should have came out in the second half and attacked. They should have kept attacking them and trying to continue to go after that defense and test those one-on-one matchups. But how do you know you have a one-on-one matchup? Well, again, you have to help Ethan understand the coverage. You have to motion and shift and help him understand it. So that's the only answer I have for this. Like, when you have one-on-one matchups, you have to have Ethan take that chance. But that's coached. You got to coach that. You got to be able to tell him, hey, if you see one-on-one, go after it. And I don't feel like he's always doing that.
Right. I'm with you on that. And I agree 1,000%. You had that momentum to close out the half. You'd think they'd maybe come out, pull out all the stops, but heading into that, I was also questioning it a little bit, and I was telling myself I could kind of see what they didn't want to give Michigan the ball back. But the same thing, I felt like they were maybe playing for the field goal. And then all of a sudden, Ethan puts a really nice pass out there. Daniel Jackson makes a great play, and you have the momentum. So I was hoping we could see them ride it a little bit in the second half. But I think the Gophers only had like 50 yards total in that second half. So it really fell off offensively. But I see folks in the comments asking about, is PJ Fleck now on the hot seat? And I don't think this does that at all. And this game wasn't close, and it wasn't really expected to be that close. Maybe it's a little bit worse than what people were thinking, but people forget there's still a lot of impact injuries on this team. Cody Lindenberg, Chris Ottman-Bell, Lemeki Brockington, and the list goes on. Now, you don't want to make that an excuse, but at the same time, what are your thoughts to the fans that are posing that question already?
Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, I'm going to say this. Yes, I think he's on a warm seat. I don't think it's going to matter, though. I don't think that it's no issue. But anytime a coach has certain games like these, you always want to see the response. And that's a PJ Fleck thing. What's the response going to be for PJ Fleck? What is this next game going to look like? Now, they do have a bye week. So Darius Taylor has another week to rest, to come back before. So you basically giving him almost 4 weeks off. So that's a month off, which should get him back for that game. But what's that next game going to look like? You look at, let's call it Nebraska. Nebraska got boat raced by Michigan as well. And then they came out and they won against Illinois. So I think that's the key. Like Brett Bielema is building something. He's got this team playing better. I think if Scott Frost had gotten boat raced by Michigan, that next game they probably would have laid an egg. Again, year 7, I hear all the stuff about, okay, this is year 7. Why aren't we seeing any turns around the corner? Michigan's the number 2 team in the country. Like, they're the number 2 team in the country. They're going to play for the national championship most likely. They played for the national championship last year. Like, I mean, it is what it is. Like, this is a team that does it in it's not super ridiculous fashion. It's not super gaudy and flashy. Besides the turnover buffs they get, the sunglasses on the sideline. My cousin's already explained that to me. I'm a Detroit guy, so I know what buffs are. But for those that don't know, Detroit buffs it's the sunglasses that the Buffalo Tusk are the handles around the ear. Very expensive. And Michigan has made it a thing now. You get a turnover, you get to wear the turnover buffs. Whoever has the most turnovers gets those. And those things could be anywhere from $2 to $10 grand. But
Jeez.
Yeah, I know, right? But I will say that's the biggest thing with this game is understanding Michigan is the number 2 team in the country. So yeah, PJ Fleck, you're gonna bring it up. He's gonna have to answer those questions. But do I think his job's in jeopardy? No.
I'm with you. And heading into that, you kind of mentioned they're heading into a bye week. You got Iowa after that. Hopefully we'll see a healthy Darius Taylor. But what is your biggest concern heading into this bye week? And how do the Gophers have to shake off this loss and what just happened on the field and kind of move on to the next? How do you not get lost in it as a player, speaking from a player's perspective, having now 2 weeks off until you play your next opponent?
Yeah, so my first one is Chris Ottman-Bell. Like, is he going to try to petition for an 8th year? Like, are we actually going to see him? If we're not going to see him, maybe do a farewell tour, start to explain to people what's going on, and let him get some round of applause, and just really try to be honest with what's going on with the situation. Cody Lindenberg, same thing. Are we going to see him at some point? Going into the bye week, like we thought every week, it's like, oh, he's close, and he's not there. The other thing, though, is Darius Taylor. That's my real concern going into this bye week, because you saw tonight the run game was there, but you were missing like that little bit of that little bit of a twinge or a tweak that could help you with Darius Taylor, Zach Evans. When you think about Darius Taylor and Zach Evans and all the pieces of the puzzle, I think that's going to be the key is what can they get done? The other part of the bye week to me, can these players stay together and not listen to the noise? We know PJ Fleck is great at motivation speaking and all that stuff, but not letting the noise get to him in the bye week.
Yeah, I feel that. And my big concern with this bye week, you've kind of tapped on it right there too, is these injuries. How do you come back from them? Because you add more players to that injury list. It looks like we had Jack Henderson went out. I don't think he came back in. Justin Wally went out, and I don't think he came back in. A lot of key veterans for this team. So hopefully they can find some health. Hopefully it's not long-term injuries as we continue to get through these next 2 weeks. But I want to dive in on that Darius Taylor thought, the Zach Evans thought. We're going to dive into on that coming up next. But first, we got to bring you a word from our friends at All right, so this show today is brought to you by FanDuel. You can get a new deal, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a deal of $5 or more. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose, over at FanDuel.com. You can bet on spread, player props, over, unders, and more. You just head on over to FanDuel.com/locked on. Again, that's FanDuel.com/locked on to take advantage of that deal today.
And I'll say I did do it myself. I'll say I did it myself with the FanDuel. By the way, people, it works. I bet on the Nuggets to beat the the Lakers to beat the Nuggets in that game. They did get one out of it, and I did win my money. So, hey, take advantage of that money. It's free money for you.
Exactly. Can't go wrong with $200 back to you. But I want to stick on that running back trend a little bit. I want to talk to you about your thoughts on running back once Darius Taylor is healthy and pairing him with a Zach Evans. What excites you about that pairing as we head into some major games, into your Illinois, your Iowas, and all of that? How do they complement each other when you're watching them play that game? Now, we haven't seen them together on the field, but you can kind of start to piece it together a little bit.
Yeah, I broke down Zach Evans in the pregame show today on the Gophers pregame show. And the one thing about Zach Evans is he has a canny ability to follow the blocks. And what that means, it sounds pretty mundane, but some running backs don't actually see where the blocks are. And it doesn't mean the hole, it means the blocks. Zach Evans has an uncanny ability to really hug a guard or hug a tackle, knowing that there is one other defender unblocked, but he has the ability to get skinny and get long get skinny and get up the field and get vertical fast. That's how he scored that touchdown in Louisiana. Fast forward, you add Darius Taylor in there, you get kind of it's not thunder and lightning. It's more like thunder, and then lightning. I don't know. They're both kind of like both. But you just get a peanut butter and jelly. I don't know what kind of duo you get, but you get two guys that are really good. And this is the key. Sean Tyler, to me, is good. I think he's a change of pace back. He's a guy that can give you third down catches. He's a really good back, to make the catches, but he has gotten kind of passed up with the fumbles. He was in fumble jail, if you want to call it. But Zach Evans, to me, with Darius Taylor, it allows PJ to run the ball 40 times, knowing 40 times if I run the ball, 32 of those times I'm going to get positive yards. And that's hard to say with one running back. With two, and I'm not saying these guys are anything close to this, but if you go back to Marion and Maroney, they would each get about 20 to 15 carries a game, and they both would end up with 100 yards because they were fresh. And I think that's the other key too, having the fresh legs, and maybe that's part of it. Darius Taylor II might have just been a little fatigued, maybe had a little bit of a concussion just from being fatigued. Like, there's a lot to this when you're a freshman. That was a huge workload the last 3 weeks, or that 3 week span for him getting freshman of the week. And so I think that's part of it too. Now you can give him a spell knowing when he has to come out. Like, don't be a hero, because Zach Evans can come in, and then vice versa. Maybe you just do a pitch count. Like, hey, you're going to get these carries. You're going to get these carries. Because like I said, you had Marion Barber and Loris Maroney in the same backfield. So it's worked before. I think they can make it work. Again, not trying to be preposterous. Now, I don't want people saying I'm crazy. Not saying these two are anything like that, but I'm saying it's been done before with two top backs.
Right. And I think they still complement each other. I think we've seen Darius Taylor can force missed tackles. He can continue to break tackles and create extra yardage. And I feel like, not that Zach Evans can't do that, but he feels a little bit more shifty. He can get to that second gear a bit quicker. He has that top end speed to him. So I think they can complement each other's games, and it keeps the defense on their heels. So hopefully we can see that pairing coming up here soon. But I want to kind of wrap it up with this. I want to think, as we head into Iowa is next on the Gophers' radar. It's after a bye week, so you get extra preparation. While Iowa, in the meantime, has to take on Wisconsin this upcoming week on the road. So Iowa lost their starting quarterback for the season. Now, Fleck hasn't beat Iowa in his time with Minnesota yet. How much pressure is there going to be on this matchup moving forward for the Gophers?
It's a ton of pressure, because if you get beat by a backup quarterback, Iowa's offense is extremely anemic. It's extremely anemic. And it's not the offensive players. They have great weapons. But Brian Ferentz, there's a lot of things going on with Iowa. We got Brian Ferentz, one. Two, you got players betting on games. So there's a lot of issues in Iowa. And so if there was ever a year to take the pig, this is it. So there's a ton of pressure, because if you go out and play Iowa in Iowa City, I'm talking to Fox 9. I'm like, we need to do the pregame show from Iowa. And I know we got to be back for the Vikings, pregame show, so we can make it work. It's a 3.5.
It's not too far.
It's not too far. But I think this is one of those years where you're like, all right, if you don't beat Wisconsin, you got to beat Iowa. Because if you lose to Iowa and Wisconsin, because Wisconsin right now seems like a tough beat, again, people are going to have questions. Why? Why can't you get over the hump? Brian Ferentz's offense is not great. But the one thing about Iowa, their defense is good. So can you find ways to put up points? And not to say they're Michigan's defense, but they turn the ball over similarly. They try to put you in uncomfortable situations to turn the ball over. So I think that's going to be the key. Like, they can't turn the ball over against Iowa because Iowa, if you just can punt the ball even, their offense is not great. So this might be a punt fest, and then whoever can score first, I think, and then kind of hold on to that lead.
Yep, I'm with you. I think it's going to be a really big matchup. I'm excited for it. I think there's a good chance for the Gophers, and I feel like if you can go and you can win that game in Iowa, things start to be forgiven by the fan base a little bit. You start to like get the pressure off. You realize, oh, Michigan was maybe one of, if not the best team in the country. You get that trophy back, and all of a sudden people are breathing a little bit easier, especially if you can get some of that pass game going. I feel like right now the biggest concern I'm gathering from some of these comments and what I'm seeing on Twitter too is people are concerned about the pass game. So I know I said that was the last thing, but I want to wrap with this. What are you seeing from Ethan Kaliakmanis? Are we still preaching patience? I'm kind of on that team. I've seen the flashes that he can do some good things, but we mentioned to open the show for those joining right now that the coaches have to help him with getting more familiar, more comfortable with reads. But what have you seen from him talent-wise? Have you seen enough to calm down the fans who are calling for who's up next, or can Kramer come in, or what are your thoughts there to wrap this one up?
Yeah, like Ethan Kaliakmanis has the tools. Like, he can run the ball. He's extremely long. He has the physical. Like, when you look at him, you're like, this is a college quarterback. But quarterback is one of the hardest positions in the sport. If not the hardest position in the sport. Like, it is the hardest sport. So how do you help out a young guy? One, Tanner Morgan was there for 6 years, so he learned this offense like the back of his hand. You got a young guy, Ethan Kaliakmanis, who's just figuring this out, just learning it. How do you help him? Again, it's simple. If you can like you said, every once in a while they would shift. But I felt like they would shift, and then they would look over at the coach for the check with me.
Mm-hmm.
When you shift, you have to teach him to read the defense. Who moved? If nobody moved, it's probably a zone. But keep your eye on these safeties. If you can help him with some quick passes, because if you watch, I don't know if anybody watched it, but Texas, Oklahoma, there was a ton of quick pass, and then they went deep. Mm-hmm. Quick pass, then they went deep. And my key to the game today was 50 Cent, patiently waiting. Everybody knows that. I've been patiently waiting for a track to explode on, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say it all. I was hoping that was the key today. Be patient, run the ball, take the short stuff, let Michigan give you what they're going to give you, and then when it's time, take the deep shot. I felt like too often they were taking shots when they didn't need to. But, yes, I've seen enough from Ethan to know physically he can get it done. I think athletically he can get it done. I think next is here. How can we get him mentally on the same page with what the coaches are seeing? Because I've asked Fleck this question, and I'm like, hey, why did he do this? Why did he do that? And he's like, yeah, that's on the coaches. Or, hey, Ethan's got to make that play. And so where do they find that difference? Where is it Ethan versus where is it the coaches? And that's the next step. But I think he can get it done. Yes, I think he's capable of getting it done.
I'm with you. I'm still on that patience train. Patiently Waiting is the great track for this song, but hopefully we'll see some more improvements as we look towards Iowa. That's going to do it for us on this Gophers postcast. Again, the Gophers fall 52-10 versus Michigan, but we'll see you after the next one. Enjoy the bye week. Hopefully the Vikings will bring you home a win as well tomorrow versus the Chiefs, and maybe you'll even get a glance at Taylor Swift. But this is Ron Johnson, the Gophers legend, signing off, and Kane Robb of Locked On Golden Gophers. We'll see you next week.
By the way, I will say I'm out. Fans are out. Taylor Swift is, I'm not going to say what hotel because I don't want people going to mob it, but she's at a hotel in Minneapolis. I've been told by a few like local DJs that know they're in the music industry. They were with us at the pregame. They've been with us now at the postgame. We're in downtown Minneapolis. We just left the game. And from all the people that are around the scene, like Daniil Hunter's agent is here. Byron Murphy's agent is hanging out with me right now. And so, I'm getting some Vikings intel, but I did hear she's here.
She's here. So it's time to go out. It's time to enjoy the night outside of this loss. And we'll move on and be with you next week. Not next week, the week after that for Iowa. Until then, signing off. See you later.